Gabby and I'm a wet and wet oil painter, and today I'm going to take you guys on a little adventure while I wash some of my paintbrushes. So I'm going to sort of dispel the notion of washing or not washing. I think washing your paintbrushes, if you're an oil painter, is kind of a personal choice. Some people say you absolutely shouldn't do it. Some people say you shouldn't do it with your natural brushes. To each his own. However, let me say, I would not survive without washing my brushes. I do not wash my brushes every day. Once I've used a brush, it goes into a separate container where if I want to use it again, I just pull it back out and I use it, no problem. But then about once a week to once every 2 weeks, or especially if I'm going to be gone for a while and I'm not going to be painting at all, I will wash my brushes. And I clean them with paint thinner right away when I'm using them. And then I just, like I said, I put them aside. And then when it's time to wash them, I know exactly what needs to be washed. And so I wash them. I get them all together. And I'm going to talk about how I wash them. I'm going to show you guys a little bit. I'm not going to go through the whole process because I have probably at least 50 paintbrushes to wash. So I'm not going to agonize through that whole thing. But I'm going to talk about a couple little things as I go through this process. And I guess we'll go from there. So I'm going to bring you guys over to where I'm working, which is the sink, obviously. Okay, so there's the sink. I have my paintbrushes, and right now they're in very, very hot water. And I'm just going to let them sort of soak for a little bit. All I really want to do is just make sure that they're wet, that they're wet and that they're warm. That's all I'm going for right now. And then once I am ready to wash them, I take them out individually, and we'll go through that process. So let's get started. So I have a towel, and I will lay out this towel when it's time for me to dry them. I will lay it out completely flat, and then I put the brushes about halfway down, and then I flip over the top, and then I roll the whole thing up, and then I let them dry that way. Now, I don't do that with all the brushes, and especially if they sort of get misshaped when I do that, I will take them back out when they're about, I don't know, halfway dry, because I check on them in about half an hour to an hour. And then if they need to be reshaped, I take them out, get them in hot water, and reshape them again. One thing I do is I do the boil dip process, which is boiling and dipping your paintbrushes. I don't do that often. I only do that if I have to, and I only do it with the bristles themselves. And yes, it can break down your brushes. So let's get started. So I just fish them out. Now, if they're like little paintbrushes, I'll take a bunch of them together at the same time. And then I use Dawn. I prefer the Platinum. The Platinum is the best Dawn. Dawn Ultra works too, but I won't use anything less than Dawn Ultra. And I actually just put this stuff right on my counter. I take my paintbrush, okay? It's been soaking in water, and I don't want it super wet. And I just dab a little bit of paint, or excuse me, not paint. I dab a little bit of soap on it, and then I use the counter. Sometimes I'll use my hand. And I also have these things that sort of suction cup to the counter that you scrub, although I found that those don't really work very well. And depending on how dirty the brush is will depend on how much I need to work it. So when you work with something that's got green or blue on it, they tend to hold on to their dirtiness a lot more. Being that this is one of my fan brushes and it's a white nylon, I'm a lot more gentle with it. The natural bristle brushes, you can be a little bit tougher on actually. So then once I got it kind of slicked up with soap, I just throw it aside in the pile. And I grab the next brush. And like I said, if I have like a bunch of little ones and they don't look too dirty, then I will grab a bunch of them at the same time. You can usually tell when the soap that you're working with is sort of maxed out because it won't foam anymore. It will just start to not foam. So let me see if I can find one that's really dirty and big that we can do this with. This is one of the goat brushes, by the way. I really like my goat brushes that I use because they're actually fairly easy to clean. You clean them with some paint thinner, clean them with some soap. They do break down after a little while though, so I try to be gentle with them. Anytime you're cleaning your bristles, by the way, I will pull over the top of them, but I don't pull my bristles and yank on them. That ruins your brushes. And I see that all the time, and it just makes me cringe when people do that. This brush should be good and dirty, and I kind of rinsed a little bit of water off my hands just to sort of show you guys this. So I have a little bit of soap on my hands, but it's not foaming at all. And that's how I know that my soap is sort of maxed out. And then I shake off my hand and I grab more soap. And this, I'm scrubbing this and I'm getting a lot of color off of it, but it's not foaming much, which tells me it's probably maxed out. And this one I used blue with. Some brushes are a lot more spongy, and I sort of try to figure out which brushes those are. And then I actually avoid them. Now, these goat brushes, they're really spongy too. But they're spongy in a different way. Like if I try to work the paint out of it, they work out. A lot of these really thick sort of yellow nylon brushes do not work the paint out very easily. And so they use a lot of paint, they waste a lot of paint. So I don't tend to use these as much, but every now and again they come in handy for what I'm doing. So I'll take it back and forth and just kind of rinse it and scrub it, rinse it and scrub it. And then when it starts to get, when it starts to get to the point where it's not letting out so much blue or whatever color is coming out of it, I'll grab another nice round of soap. I'll scrub it out on the counter, okay? And then I'm just gonna let it sit. And so I do that with all my brushes. I go through, I scrub them all, I get them all covered in soap, and I'll be replacing the soap on the counter pretty soon. But I go through, and then if they are of a delicate nature where I need to put back the bristles, I do. And some of these brushes I don't scrub so much, I will just wipe them, like these flat brushes, which is what I should have done this with this one. But I will go back through and I will flatten them. And then I have certain ones where it's like if they need to be nice and straight, like say my script brushes, they won't go rolled up onto the towel with the rest of the brushes. So I'm going to go through this process. I am going to wash all these brushes, and then I will come back to you guys when I get to a further step. Okay, so I'm back, and I have washed out all of my brushes. Some of the natural fiber ones I will take and I will flip back and forth. I usually do this like outside. I actually do it on our cement steps outside, but right now it is actually about 10 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, so it's freezing cold outside, and so that's not going to happen. So I will go through and I will do that with all of them until they're sort of dried out and fluffed up. And some of the other artificial ones like this, and I like these brushes, by the way, they're great. I'll do that too as well. But, so let's get through these really quick. Some of my other brushes though, like say this beauty here, I just gently wipe off. And then what I did in this process is I wash them, I rinse them out, I rinse them out, I rinse them out. I do like 3 rinses until when I rinse it, there isn't soap coming out. And with the sink clean, I just flip my brush back and forth and just make sure that there's no bubbles coming out. Now if there are, I just keep on going around the sink. And then I'll roll them around in my hand a little bit just to make sure there's no soap coming off, and then I'll dry them and then reshape them. And so I'll go through that process with all of these. I'll beat them if they need to be beat out, and if they don't need to be beat out, or they shouldn't be for their sort of delicacy and fiber characteristics, then I will do that. But regardless, I make sure that they're all sort of soap free. And you'll know if your brushes are soap free because when you let them dry, they will sort of be kind of stiff and crunchy. And then if you try to fluff them up, which I will do once they're dry, they won't fluff up. They will just sort of stay stiff and crunchy. And that's how you can tell. And then if you hit them with water again after they've dried, you'll know right away because soap will just start coming out of them like crazy. There's certain brushes that are harder to rinse out, like these mops. And I try to do this delicately, especially with the mops, because mops tend to shed their fibers a lot. And so when I'm sort of knocking the water out of them, I just do it a little bit more gently. And too, with mops, you can sort of squeeze them and you can just feel the bubbles in them. So keep that in mind when you are washing them out. Now I still have a couple days before I go on vacation, so I will end up doing this again. The day before I leave, I will not paint. Any brush that has been used will be washed out again, and then I sort of just get everything situated in my studio before I go on vacation. And then while I'm on vacation, I'm going to bring you guys sort of with, and I'm going to do at least one video, if not more, while I'm on vacation, just to kind of bring you guys with and give you guys an idea of how that sort of goes down. I love this brush, by the way. It's a huge filbert. Really nice. I got it recently. And as I'm rubbing it, I'm still getting soap off of it, so I'm going to set that one to the side. Like I said, I'll go through and just figure out what needs to be rinsed out again, and most of these shouldn't need to be because I have checked them. One thing that people do say about washing their brushes is it can make them fall apart. I have certain brushes that this is true with more than others. These are these black Royal and Langnickel, and I like them. They have these really long handles, but their bits try to come out a lot more than some other brushes. So I will not buy any more of these. I got those actually online. They weren't used, they were new, but it was like a big lot of them. There was like 20 of them or something. I like how they paint. I don't like how they fall apart, so I won't be buying more of them. This brush in particular had sort of dried paint on it, and that was one of the things I really wanted to talk about. The thing is, this brush is basically toast the way it's falling out. It's all falling out all over the place. If I wanted to get the stuff out of it though, what I would do is, now that I've scrubbed it really well, I would either soak it in some more soap for a while or let it dry, because sometimes I found if you clean it with paint thinner and then you wash it with soap and water, then you let it dry, then you can sort of kind of fluff it up and you can see where it's kind of sticky again. I will take it back into paint thinner, I will clean it again, I will bring it back to soap. If you find a brush that you really like, and you wash your brushes with soap, or even if you don't, before you buy a bunch of them, I would advise that you buy extra if you find a brush that you like. I always say that. But what I would advise is that you use it for a little while, clean it. I wouldn't say be tough on it, but don't be too soft on it. Because if you are considering buying more of them, you need to make sure that that brush isn't going to fall apart. Like I said, I will not buy any more of these. When I first got those black handled brushes, I was like, okay, where can I find more of these? Because I really like them. They paint well, but they splay and they fall apart. So I will not buy any more of those brushes. So anyways, guys, that's kind of my little process of doing my brushes. This is one of my liner brushes, and these tend to get sort of bent out of shape. Really hot water, or sometimes even boiling water, will straighten them back out. And then if they're brushes that tend to get bent in general, they will not get wrapped up in my towel. I guess that's all I really wanted to say about that. Like I said, I'll flip the towel over, I'll roll them up for whatever needs to dry out, and then I'll come back and reshape them if I need to. If you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and put them in the comment section of the video, and I'll happily answer them. I'm Gabby. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys could like, share, subscribe, that would be super helpful for me. Until next time, I really do hope that you guys fall in love with oil painting just as much as I have. Bye, guys.